everyone, welcome to Christina Cakes It. I'm Christina and today I'm showing you how to make and ship a cake pop cake. So I'm very excited to share this tutorial with you for a few different reasons. So if you guys watch my channel, you know that I love to make cakes and treats and send them to my loved ones for their birthdays. But I have run into a bit of an issue with summer birthdays because although you can ship a cake in the summer, and I showed you guys how to do that, there have been a lot of delays with shipping due to everything that's been going on. And so all of my deliveries are taking more than the 3 days to get there, but I have the perfect solution. So what I figured out is I can ship cake pop cakes and they ship so well. So cake pops themselves stay super fresh. Like these you can still eat after like 2 to 3 weeks. I have sent cake pops internationally. I've sent them over the summer with no problems because the candy melts that are used on the outside, like they have a higher melting point than typical chocolate, so they don't melt. And knowing this, I decided that I would experiment with making cake pops like into a birthday cake. And I did my first one and I did it for my little niece Kinsey and it went so well. So the cake went to Colorado with no problems and it was perfect. So I knew I had to make a tutorial for this. So to get started, I'm just gonna make the actual cake pops. Actually, in this case, I just call them like cake bites or cake balls. It's basically cake pops with no stick. And they're actually easier. So I'm gonna get started with doing that first. So to get started, I'm just using 1 layer 8-inch cake. And the reason I'm doing this is I have found that the 8-inch layer cake size just seems to work perfectly with 1 bag of candy melts. Like it just works for me, so that's what I go with. And I'm just using a funfetti cake, so it's my vanilla cake that I use for everything, but I added like 1/2 cup of sprinkles to make it funfetti. And I chose this flavor just because it's a crowd favorite with my family. So all my little nieces and nephews love funfetti, so always gets rave reviews. So I'm just tearing up my cake layer. And I guess I should also note that I did trim around the sides and the top and the bottom of the cake to remove like any of the caramelization from the pan. Sorry, just because it helps make the crumb look a little bit better when it doesn't have like that dark interspersed in there. So I'm just tearing this up with my hands. And you could use a food processor for this, but I just don't have one. So you can also just use a hand mixer. So I'm just going to mix this to make a fine crumb. So after my cake has been crumbed, I guess you could say, I'm gonna start adding frosting. And this is the part where people often go wrong. And I think people add too much frosting, like that's a fatal mistake. So here I have 1 cup of buttercream and I'm probably not going to add all of this. And this is just my standard American buttercream recipe. And I should say that you can use pretty much any cake flavor with any buttercream flavor that you'd want. I would say from like cream cheese or any perishable frostings. But you could make it like a chocolate cake or, you know, whatever cake pop recipe you like. So I'm gonna start by adding maybe 1/2 of this, so around 1/2 cup. I'm gonna test out the consistency here. And we want this to hold its shape. And this, when I squish it together, it holds its shape pretty well. And so I actually think this consistency is fine. So that was about 1/2 cup of the buttercream. You could probably add a little bit more. Like there is a little bit of room for flexibility with the measurement, but you just don't want to add too much and make it too like wet. That will essentially ruin your cake pop. So what I'm gonna do now is just start making the little cake balls. And I am using a meatballer that I bought just for this purpose. And why I like to use this is because it's gonna make them uniform in size. So I'm getting the same amounts and I'm just going to be rolling these into balls. So as I'm playing with this, I can see I actually think I do want to add maybe a tablespoon more of frosting because it didn't quite hold its shape as well as I want. So add just like another spoonful of buttercream. And now we're gonna go ahead and shape these. And I'm just setting mine into a pie plate because these have to be frozen for about 20 minutes. So you can use like whatever you want, like a cookie sheet or, you know, a baking pan, but a pie plate is perfect size for this. So I'm done forming my cake balls, and these are gonna go into the freezer for about 20 minutes. And that part is crucial. You have to put them in the freezer to make them cold before you dip them into the candy melts. And I should note that I was able to get 24 out of one 8-inch layer. Okay, fast forward through editing, and it is now 20 minutes later, and these just came out of the freezer. And while those were freezing, I prepared my candy melts according to the instructions. And I should also note, my candy melts always need to be thinned out, and I use this product. It's not sponsored. I just love this product. It's saved a lot of batches of candy melts. So these are the easy thin. People use shortening as well, but just a helpful tip in case your chocolate is a little thick like mine is. So candy melts are ready, and I also have some sprinkles. I chose like a really colorful mix because that's the vision for the cake I want to send. And I did separate out like the bigger sprinkles because they don't really like sprinkle well. You actually kind of have to place them. So all I'm gonna do is I'm actually just going to drop these in, use my spoon to cover the little cake ball. And these dry really fast, so I'm just gonna sprinkle as I go. And I'm just gonna continue doing this until all of these are done. And you do wanna kind of work fast because if this starts to thicken, you can actually either add a little bit more of the easy thin, or you can heat it up for a few more seconds. All right, so I am just finishing up with my last little cake bite. These are gonna harden really fast, and while they finish setting, like honestly within like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to prepare my cake dummy to actually start assembling the cake. So to make the actual cake pop cake, what you're going to need is a styrofoam dummy cake, and I'm just using a 6-inch cake. And the reason being is because I'm shipping this, and this is what fits in the flat rate box. I actually envision that people can do so many different things with this. Like you could make a cake pop wedding cake if you wanted to, but for this we're just doing a little small birthday cake. So 6-inch styrofoam dummy. And what you're gonna do is actually wrap the whole thing in press and seal. So we wanna cover the styrofoam. We don't want like our edible product to be touching the styrofoam. So after I wrap my cake dummy and it's ready to go, I am going to adhere it to a cake board. So this is a 6-inch cake. I'm gonna put it on an 8-inch cake board, and I just put a little bit of tape here so that it doesn't move. And what that is going to do is it's gonna leave a little bit of room to support the cake pops as they stick out. And now I am ready to start adhering the actual cake bites. So I am going to stick in the toothpick into the styrofoam. And then I'm just going to take the cake pop and you just puncture it right through and stick it on in. And I'm just going to continue around. I just want to check the height on this, so I'm going to make sure that I go 3 up. And there you have it. We have our cake pop cake ready, and you can see how fun and cute this looks. And I added a little cake topper, which I think just really brings it together. And so now that I have this done, I'm gonna show you exactly how to package it for shipping. So to package this, I am once again using Press and Seal, and I'm just gonna wrap this whole thing really tightly. And this is not only going to help keep the cake pops fresh, but it's actually going to secure them so they don't fall off of our dummy cake. So I am using a large flat rate box just because this is the size that I need. And like I said, with what's going on right now, shipping has been kind of hit or miss. So I've had boxes still get there in 3 days, and then I've had some boxes that took almost 9 days to get there after I shipped it, but my cake pop cake is going to stay fresh, so I'm not worried about it at all, and it is August, and I know this is not going to melt. All right, so I am just going to set my cake pop cake into my box, and I'm just going to stuff the sides with packing paper. So I'm stuffing this paper in here because we just want it really padded, because these do get like pretty tossed around as they're making their journey across the country. So after I have this completely packed, and I made sure to add a card in there, and I added a little colored tissue paper just because I think it looks prettier that way. I'm just gonna seal this up. So my package is ready to go, and the last thing I need to do is address this. It's going all the way to Virginia. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you also found this really helpful when you want to send a birthday cake in the summer. And if you did like this episode, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.